Okay, today we're going to start at the Mishnah on Kufnan Vav. Kufnan Vav on the base. You see that? It's towards the bottom. There's a Mishnah there, yeah? Rabbi Eliezer Reimer. Can we thank Hashem? It's able to learn Torah every day. It's supposed to learning. We should have the base of Mikdash immediately. Learning the Nishma, Savgad Basra Yamin, I've been seeing. And also, for I've been Sarah, I get to Eliezer and Shake it my father. That's Levi ben Miriam Adel. Okay. One Gemara, there's Gemara over there. This is Shalom. This is in my yeshiva. Rabbi Lezer says, "Shabbos tvar kayam neshayach in yach lichta b'avalei b'chal." Shabbos am kavachem b'chal. Okay, let's explain what we're doing over here. We're talking about a shchemira, someone that's on his deathbed. His deathbed, he's able to say where he wants his inheritance to go, right? He's able to distribute his properties. However, Rabbi Eliezer didn't hold of that. Rabbi Eliezer held that you need to make a kinyan. It doesn't help just for him to say, to have an actual kinyan. So now, Rabbi Eliezer says, even though I said that it doesn't help just for him to make a verbal appointments of where the property should go, but on Shabbos that's different. It says on Shabbos Dvarav Kayamin. You see, we're concerned that there's someone on his deathbed that because of his concern of where his property is going to go, he's going to lose his mind. It says things are not getting put in order. So in order to help him out, we say that if it's during the week, we don't say that you can just verbally allocate the properties. But on Shabbos, because you're not allowed to make a kinyan, you're not allowed to write, so we say that you can do it verbally. That's the avalei b'chol, but not in a weekday. A weekday, do it properly. You're able to write, so write and make a kinyan. Rabbi Shua says it's exactly the opposite. The Shabbos Amru, on Shabbos they said that you can do this without a kinyan, and kal v'chaimer b'chol, and for sure you can do it in the weekday. The logic for Rabbi Yeshua, the Rashbam mentions, that it's based on this term Amar Abzeira, that davar haray labila ein bilasim akeves. If you have a big container with a carbon mincha with 60 sayin of flour and oil. It doesn't, even though you're supposed to mix it, but if you didn't mix it, it's acceptable. Because if you're able to mix it, then that's good enough. Once you're able to, that's good enough. So here, Rabbi Shua says like this: if on Shabbos, when you're not able to write, you're not able to make a kinyan, we say that it's acceptable. When you're able to make a kinyan, then you don't need the kinyan. If you're able to, then you don't even need to. All we need to know is that you're able to.
It's like a migo.
Sort of like a migo. Since you could have, then you get that power. Okay, that's Rabbi Shua's logic. That if you were able to in the weekday, then for sure it works. Without it, then you don't even have to go ahead and do it. Similar to this, we say zachan lekatan vein zachan legadol. A child can't make a kinyan, can't acquire, according to this opinion. However, someone else acquires on behalf of the child, so that's going to help. The child can't do the kinyan, but someone else can acquire on his behalf. So what happens now is that if a child can't make a kinyan, so then we have to institute that someone else can acquire on his behalf. So, but Rabbi Yeshua would say, Rabbi Yeshua would say, "L'kat namru, l'gadol, kal v'chaim l'gadol." You see, Rabbi Lezer would say that an adult, why should we have someone else acquire for him? Go ahead and acquire yourself. Rabbi Yeshua says, if an adult is able to, then why should he have to? It's enough that he's able to. Yeah, that's Rabbi Yeshua's logic. Rabbi Yeshua's logic is that anything that has potential, you don't have to actually go ahead and do it. You just have to be able to do it. Oh.
He hasn't matured.
Yeah, but we're saying that's enough. That the potential is enough. Yeah. Shua's logic here is that if you have potential, then you don't have to actually go ahead and do it. It reminds me when they first came, like MP3s. So this guy gives me a ride in his car. So he says, "You got to see what I have here." So he shows me he has the whole shas on this little thing in his like
USB.
That wasn't a USB then. It was like it's like an AUX thing. What's that thing? I have this thing in my car, the whole shas on this thing, and it's in my. I said, "Wow, do you learn?" He said, I don't really have to. I have it, you know." That's right. Okay. So, two machlekes in here, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. I believe it's Rabbi Eliezer, even though yesterday we had it edited to Rabbi Eliezer. But Rabbi Yeshua, how do you have Rabbi Eliezer arguing with Rabbi Yeshua? Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer ben Shemua. It's a grand student, is such a word. His Rabbi Akiva is his student, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Shemua is his student. So, but his friend is Rabbi Eliezer. It's probably Rabbi Eliezer. Two?
Yesterday was a. Today is a.
Oh, good. Okay, fine. I know, but it's the same opinion as the opinion yesterday, because Elazar was the one that said that you can't. Whoever the opinion was yesterday said that you can't just verbally give over the property, and that's what we're using today. You can't do it verbally unless it's on Shabbos. Okay, what the Gemara is going to do now, it could confuse you if you try to do this by heart, but what it's going to do is it's going to say that the Mishnah that we had was actually a machlekes by a later Tana. So machlekes later Tanaim, what the two opinions of the Mishnah is. These are early Tanaim, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Then we have later Tanaim, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Akiva students. What Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua said. So the Gemara asks, Masnisa Mani, who's the author of our Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda. It's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and not Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Yehuda is going to explain the machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua exactly the way our Mishnah does, and Rabbi Meir switches it around. So as you'll see, Rabbi Meir Reimer, the Tanya was started in a brayso. Rabbi Meir Reimer, Rabbi Eliezer Reimer, Chol Dvar V'Kaim Pnei Sheyachal Lichter. Rabbi Eliezer has the opinion that it only works in the weekday for the Shchiv Meira, the person on his deathbed, to say where he wants the property to go, and that's where it goes without any kinyan. That's only on a weekday. Why? Because on a weekday you're able to write. Now, if you're able to write, then you don't actually have to write. But on Shabbos it doesn't work because you're not able to write. Not able to write, that means you would have to write, and you can't write. So then it doesn't work. It's exactly the opposite of the way we put it. Yeah, this is Rabbi Eliezer. He doesn't have the and that's b'chol avalei b'Shabbos, but on Shabbos doesn't work. And Rabbi Shua says b'chol amru that it works on the weekday kal v'chaim b'Shabbos. His logic was the other way, was what Rabbi Meir's, what Rabbi Eliezer opinion was in our Mishnah. That Rabbi Shua says on the weekday it works when you're able to. So for sure it works on Shabbos when you're not able to. We don't have no other options. The poor guy on his deathbed wants to distribute his property, and there's no way of doing it. Now you're telling me that he can't. There's nothing he can do. So kal v'chaimer it works on Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer says that a different person can acquire on behalf of a child, but that's only for a child, not for an adult. The adult can do it himself. And Rabbi Shua says, no, I'm sorry, the opposite. That you can only acquire for an adult because the adult can do it for himself. So then you can acquire for him. If you can acquire for himself, then he doesn't need to acquire. Someone else can do it. But for a child where he can't do it, so then someone else can't do it for him either. When there's no potential, you lose it. Rabbi Shua says, Rabbi Shua says the opposite svara, that if you can do it for a gadol, then for sure you can do it for a child where there's no other option. Rabbi Eliezer, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, what the Machlekes is. And Rabbi Yehuda is a repeat of our Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer holds that on Shabbos you can distribute the property by just verbally saying where you want it to go, because you're not able to write and we don't want him to lose his mind. But not in the weekday, because in the weekday, go do it properly and make a kinyan. That's Rabbi Eliezer opinion. Rabbi Shua says, Shabbos Amru, that they said that you can do this on Shabbos and Kavachaymer B'chol. For sure you can do it on a weekday, because if there's potential to do it with a kinyan, then you don't even have to do the kinyan. Rabbi Eliezer holds that you can acquire on behalf of a child, even though because the child himself cannot do it, so you can do it on his behalf. But an adult that can do it on his own, so go do it on your own. You can't acquire on his behalf. And how are we going to learn? In all of Shas, you say, Zachem Adam Shlei B'fanav. How does Rabbi Eliezer say get this by? I mean, no, it's like it's an opinion that just knocked out the whole Bab Metzia. No, but you had the whole Bab Metzia of acquiring something on someone else's behalf. You find an object, you pick it up for someone else. And according to Rabbi Eliezer, you can't do that. According to this. Court.
The person that does he acquire for the minors?
He takes care of the property. You want to know who, which would mean sometimes he has to acquire. He has to do everything. Can, yes. That's only in Rabbi. That's only in Rabbi Meir's opinion. According to Rabbi Yehuda, everyone acquires, right? The Zachem Lekatan. The Myers can yes acquire. According to Rabbi Eliezer, and for sure according to Rabbi Shua, right? But I'm asking the other way. I'm asking for the gadol, not the minor. I'm asking, what about all of Bab Metzia when we're talking about acquiring things on other people's behalf, the Gemara and Gittin and all of that? And according to Rabbi Eliezer, it doesn't fit.
What domain?
Yeah, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's part of it. If you say, Hill's bringing up that other problem of Chatzar Mishum Shlichas, Chatzar Mishum Yad. However, a Chatzar works, it acquires on behalf of the person. But 1 second, go make the kinyan yourself. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it doesn't work for a gadol. I don't know. Okay.
So isn't that only where he's able to make the kinyan himself?
He has to be able to make the kinyan himself.
And
And here,
not able.
Rabbi Eliezer holds that ein zachin legadol, because we don't care if you're able. Because you're able, go do it properly.
And if you're not able,
If you're not able to, then we can institute for you that we can help you out.
so that would be where Zachem Adam Shalabata.
Zachin Shabbat for a katan, but for a gadol that's able to make a kinyan.
But if
So
he's
go
not,
do it
but
yourself.
if the guy doesn't know about it, he's not able. That's why you're
No. The way you're presenting it is that, okay, so now Rabbi Eliezer said, ein zachin legadol, ein zachin legadol. Okay, so now that he's not able, so now let's reinstitute that zachin legadol.
Yeah.
No, what it means is that he has potential to go do it, so go do it properly. Don't rely on any of these heterim. Okay, Rabbi Yeshua says that if it works for a child, for sure works for an adult, because anything that's potential, you don't have to actually do, and it's good enough that potential. Okay, that was the last topic. New Mishnah, new topic. Shalom, you're familiar with this. You put this up. Best. Nafal abayas alav alaviv ayalav al merisha. Why did you bring it up? You had it in the Gemara somewhere by you. The house. I'm not seeing it being quoted there. If the house collapses on two people, a father and a son. Let's say the son's name is Ruvain and the father's name is Yaakov. Yaakov has a lot of property, and the house collapses and they both die. Ruvain happens to have, let's take a look, or on him and on his relative, on his inheritor. Okay, whatever it is. An uncle, a brother, or something. Now, V'haisa alav ksubasisho balchay. Ruvain has some debts. He has to pay a creditor. He borrowed money. He has to pay it back. Or he has a ksuba that he has to give to his wife. He owes his wife money. But okay, now
Can't give it to his wife, he's dead.
so he can't give it to his wife because he's dead. Now, 1 second. The problem is over here. Take a look at this conflict. Yorshia Vaimrim, the inheritors of the father say, which means all the inheritors here, they say, Haben Meisvishin Rachach Mesav. Reuven has debts, but he died right away. And he didn't inherit any of his father's property. He died first. The father has all the property, no debts, has all the property, and he died second. And all of us are going to inherit the property. Yeah, I know Reuven had some things, but he didn't have any property, so tough luck on you. He didn't have any estate, and there's no property from him, so the creditors don't get any money. The creditors, they say, the father died first. Reuven inherited, maybe together with the other inheritors, whatever, he inherited property. And it's going to go to, he has an estate that has to be, distributed. But here we are, and we're ready to collect. Yeah, so the question is, they both died. Who died first? It could be a matter of seconds. Who died first in this collapse? If the father died first, the creditors can collect. If the son died first, the creditors can't collect. So each one is claiming as if they know who died first.
Didn't we bring this up previously with the animal, where the behemoth died and the fetus is still alive? We had some situation very
things like
similar.
this, yeah.
The parent always dies first
Yeah, we had something like that.
because they were able to save it.
We thought the opposite. We thought that the fetus always died first.
Yeah, but then posterity, yeah.
Me-
And then we said
medically.
there's all these situations where unfortunately the mother died and saved the baby.
Right.
But,
Yeah, but Benjamin was born before Rachel died.
see, that proves it. Oh,
Said
see,
Ben Aini, right? She gave him a name. My suffering.
that's right. Take it back.
Okay, so what's going to be the halacha in this case? So it's going to be a machlekes b'shami and b'silo. B'shami yamim yachleiku. B'shami says that we divide this. We divide it up. It says it's a doubt. And because of the doubt, so it's an interesting discussion here because the inheritors are considered the vadai. They definitely get the property. Right. The question is, do the creditors get anything? The inheritors for sure inherit, because whoever dies, they're the inheritors. They're the same inheritors. Bishame says that even though there's a vada here, the inheritors for sure get, but the suffix of the creditor is strong enough of a suffix to extract from a vada. So they divide at least halfway. Basil says no. They have a vada. The inheritors are the definite ones. Opposite. Always Bisham is first. That's why the halacha is like Basil, because Basil would always present the other side first. That was their humility. Yeah? They always put their word second. Tanan Hasam was taught. That's why. Tanan Hasam was taught in a Mishnah. Hamal v'schaver b'shtar. This Mishnah is, we heard it earlier, and it's going to be later. If someone lends his friend money and there's a document, give him you can collect from liened property. So what does that mean? You can collect from liened property. That means if the borrower has property, even though he sells it, but you can go to the purchasers of the property and say that the borrower owed me money and that property has a lien on it, and therefore I'm confiscating it. You go get your money back from the borrower. Al Yidei Edim. But if there was no document that said, that had that loan in it, that the document that contained the loan was just witnesses, then then you can only collect from the borrower. You can't go to the people that bought his properties. Just that. That's where it stops. Boy Shmuel. Yeah. Boy Shmuel. Shmuel has a question. If someone is putting a lien on his property because of a debt, he's telling what he's going to. He's borrowing money, and the guy's saying, "Well, how do I know that you're going to pay me back?" So he says, "Oh, the way you know is because I'm putting a lien. You can collect from all my property, collect from my house, you collect from my car. I don't know if you can put the top in there. You collect from this property, from that property, another property." And he says over there, "The ikni, property that I will acquire also. You can collect from that as well. Bekana, and then he acquires property. Mahu, what's it then? Do we say that this future property that he acquires could be indebted, like mortgaged, to the debt that he didn't even have when he exactly. According to Rab Meir, if a person can sell something, that he doesn't have, right? I'm selling to you something that's coming to me. He didn't have it yet, and he can still sell it. So, like Tibayalach, for sure, that's not a problem. The Vadekana, for sure, he's able to give over. He's able to exchange the lien on the property, even though he doesn't have the property yet. Problem is, according to Rabbanan, say you can't sell something that you don't have. You have to actually have it in your possession to sell it. So, according to them, would you be able to transfer a mortgage, to give a mortgage on property that you don't have yet? To transfer that lien over. Amar Rav Yosef.
Gets any money, IRS shows up.
Yeah, so
Well,
really?
just put the 10% in the pension. And
That's future.
then it's a show future, and then they automatically. Yeah, but I'm saying it's just automatic.
In the documents we write in the ksuber, the kanayu, the asad miknei that I own and what that I will get in the future, it's all being meshubed, all getting a lien on it to pay for the ksuba. So that we actually write this. So who's asking this question over here? Shmuel. This is a question of Shmuel. Very early Amira is asking this question. Well, it comes along with Rabbi Yosef. 2 generations later, he says, Tashima, come and listen. The background to this statement that Rabbi Yosef is quoting is that if someone borrowed money, then let's say Shimon borrows money from Reuven, right? Reuven borrows from Shimon. Reuven borrows money from Shimon. Now, what happens is Reuven has a property. He goes to Shimon and he sells him the property. And then Shimon comes to Reuven later and he says, "You owe me money." So Reuven says, "1 second. How is it possible that I owe you money? You just bought a property from me. Would you have paid me for that property? Would we have made that transaction if I owed you money? If I owed you money, why would we be doing that? You would have just collected the money. Or maybe taken the property, but you made the sale. You did it." So one opinion over here says that that's a proof that he doesn't really owe money. And the Chachamim say, or Admain, no, and that was Admain's opinion. The Chachamim say, no. On the contrary, it's exactly the opposite. The guy's a genius. He sold him the property, and he paid him the money. Why did he sell him property? No, it was the opposite. It's the opposite. I'm sorry. It's the opposite. Not that Reuven borrowed the money, right? Not that Reuven sold Shimon a property. Shimon sold Reuven a property. Shimon sold Reuven a property. So he's saying that the first opinion is saying Shimon is selling Reuven a property. So 1 second, he owes him money, and now instead of taking money from him, he's selling him something. Right? That's a little odd. Why is he doing a transaction? That money he could go straight for the loan. So right. So but the Chachamim say no. The guy's brilliant. He wouldn't have given the money for the loan. He's giving them. He would only give money for property. But now when he's giving him property, he's now able to go to the property and just confiscate it. I gave you something that I can confiscate. I sold you something that I can confiscate.
So it's the other way around.
So Shimon's a really smart guy.
The guy who's owed the money is selling it.
Exactly. Yeah,
but that's not what you said.
So, the guy that's owed the money, in this case, Shimon,
is selling
the property to
so
Reuven.
if the guy
Now he can go take. So he says like this: look, because now we can take it as a collateral. So Rabbi Yosef is proving from this. Listen, how this is a proof. Rabbi Yosef is proving from this that at the time of the debt, Reuven did not have the property. He got the property later, and nevertheless, this can be used as collection. So you see, it does become indebted. Property that he bought later becomes indebted to this. Amalei Rava says that wasn't our question. Minei Kamar, you saying to collect from the person, from Reuven himself. Minei afilu miglimad al kaspe. You can take his shirt to collect the debt. Kikami boilon. What was our question? Dikni kana umachar. Dikni kana v'hayrishmai. We're talking about when Reuven doesn't have the property anymore. We're talking about Reuven purchased the property after he had already the debt. Then he sold it to someone else. Now the question is can he go confiscate it from the person that bought it? Or let's say it was inherited to someone else. Can he go and take it from that person who inherited it because that was part of the estate? That's the question. Okay. Amar Rav Chana. Rav Chana says Tashema. Maybe Chana. Come and listen. And we quote our Mishnah. Nafal abayas alav alav al merisha. If the house collapsed, vayisalav ksubasisha bal chayv, and Reuven had on him these debts. Right, his wife deserved the ksuba. Or there was a creditor, Yershi, the inheritors say that the son died first, and there's no collections going to be made. And the creditors say no, the father died first. That means that after those debts were there already, the father dies. Reuven, who's still alive for another few seconds, inherits. Then it goes to the inheritors. So he acquired it and bequeathed it, all after the debt, right? Acquired it and bequeathed it. And we're saying, then they're trying to say, that the creditors are saying, we can still collect. So, if you say that it's not indebted, even if the father would die first, but that would go under the category of something that he didn't own at the time of the debt. So how would it work? It's proof. It's a proof that it does create a lien, right? When you acquire it afterwards. Amalu Rav Nachman Zira. Rav Nachman Zira says to Rav Chana, Chavrin, I think I'm reading this correctly. If you have a commas or anything in your thing, Chavrin Tirgama. The group translated it. Is that how it's put over there? Rav Nachman Zira, Rav Nachman the small. How do you have? Let me see your. No. Oh, Zira Chavrin. Put a comma in the wrong place. I thought it was Rav Nachman Zira, someone that I wasn't familiar with. Okay, our friend Zira. Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's great. Okay, that's much better. Zira, that means Reb Zera, I guess, because Tirgama, Reb Zera, our friend, translated it Mitzvah al yisaimim lepreya chayvas aviyam. You can't bring a proof from there. Can't bring a proof from there. Can't bring a proof because that's talking about inheritors. Right. And inheritors have a special mitzvah to pay their father's debt, to pay up their father's debt. If it would be not yisaimim, if it would be something else, if it was just sold to someone else, then the halacha may be different. Over here, because it's the estate that's being bequeathed to the inheritors, they have an obligation to pay, they have a mitzvah to pay their father's debt. So that's why they're paying it. But maybe if it would be just a sale, then maybe the halacha would be different. Maskefla Ravashi. Ravashi has a question. It says, Milval Pehu. We're dealing with a Milval Peh. How do we know it's Milval Peh?
Shop. It's joking.
How do we know it's Milval Peh?
There's no star.
One second. Help the dummy bundle. You have to. According to Reb Zera's explanation, the creditors are demanding that the orphans honor their rabbinic obligation to settle the claim from the estate, even if the lien represented by the written document gives them no rights to collect. Hence, he should have no more rights than a creditor who lacks written documentation of the loan. Because it's only a mitzvah, even though there's a loan document, but we're going to say that the rights to collect is not coming from the document, it's coming from this rabbinic obligation. So therefore, it's going to be
That makes it Malpeh.
It makes it a milval peh. Okay.
But this obligation is only if there's money in the estate. The
Right.
orphans don't have an obligation to reach into their own pockets.
Exactly.
So does that make it a little different here?
So let's take a look. He says, Maskal Rashi milval pehu. This is a milval peh. And Rabbi Shmuel, the Amri Tarbaya, and Rabbi Shmuel both say that milval peh, that milval peh, you don't collect from the inheritors. You don't collect from. That's funny because it's like it's like this circular. It's a milva al peh, the obligation on the inheritors, and now inheritors don't pay a milva al peh. The whole obligation. That was the whole obligation. We're dealing with Shmuel's question, where the document would say the ikne, or things that I would acquire as well. And then we're asking that, right? Okay. Okay. Ella, we have to turn the page, right? Ella Hamani Reb Meiri. Rather, there's no problem with this Mishnah. We can't bring any proof or anything from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah could be the opinion of Reb Meir. That when the way we started this Gemara, we said that according to Reb Meir, we have no questions on this. According to Reb Meir, everyone would agree that anything that you acquire later could be indebted to the creditors. Amrab Yaakov Minar Pekoid Mishmei Ravina. Yaakov from the Har Pekoid, River Pekoid, says the name of Rabina. Tashema, come and listen. If there's predated documents of a loan, that's going to be puzzled. The reason why that's puzzled is because if someone borrows money, let's say Ruvain borrows money from Shimon. Shimon can collect from Ruvain, but he can only collect from Ruvain from properties that Ruvain had at the time of the borrowing. But properties that he sold already previously, that does not, Shimon has no rights to those properties. Anything that's in the past history, in his old portfolio, that has nothing to do with Shimon. So, but if you take the loan document, and you predate it to earlier times, that's going to allow Shimon to go and collect from people that he has no rights to collect. So the predated document, the document with the date too early, is puzzle. You can't use that at all. But if you post-date the document, so then what Shimon is now doing is he's losing out. He's forgiving properties that Ruvain has. He's forgiving that. So okay, I can't collect from that. I'll have to collect from things that you have only from later, not things that you've sold earlier. So that is ksherit. That's going to be kosher. Now, if you would accept the opinion that things that you acquire later do not go under the category of the lien, they don't get mortgaged. So look at this. He borrows money in Nisan. He writes Tishrei. Very nice, Shimon. You're a nice guy. You write later on, and you forgive all of that. But what's really happening is that there's property
That's going to be acquired.
that he's acquiring later. The question is, why is it going to be kosher? The problem is
He acquired after the date.
When he post dates the IOU, he's only hurting himself.
he's only hurting himself. The problem is that maybe he acquired property between Nisan and Tishrei. If you have literature from Tishrei Ve'ela, maybe he acquired property after the debt. If we say, you see, what's happening now is that if you say that you can't acquire that if you acquire property later after the debt, there's no lien on that property. If you would say that, now because I'm post-dating the debt, so that I'm really acquiring property after the debt, but it looks like I acquired the property before the debt. So we've just created a new problem, right? If you post-date the debt, but the premise is like this: if anything you acquire later does not have a lien on it, then when you post-date the debt, you're actually getting a lien on more property than you really should. Right? If property that you acquire after the debt does not have a lien on it, anything you acquire later doesn't have the lien. That was one of the options, Shmuel's question. So if you post-date a document, then there's property that you've acquired after the real debt, but precede the date of the document, which means that you now have more property that you don't really have rights to collect because you acquired it after. So if that's the case, there's documents you acquired later that look like you acquired them before. The Gemara says, well, this is not a problem either. Hamani Reb Meir, that's our answer for everything. You say this is the opinion of Reb Meir. It says that you're able to, and him we had no question. Okay. If you can sell it, things that you don't own, for sure you can put a lien on things that you don't. Amar Rav Meshashin from Rav Tashma. Meshashin says the name of Rav, come and listen. The Shvach Karkais Ketzad. This is this complicated case where a person bought a property from someone, and then the creditor shows up. Yeah, Reuven borrows money from Shimon, and Reuven sells his properties. Now Shimon comes to collect, and he takes the properties away from the purchaser. So the purchaser goes back to Reuven, and he says, "I bought those properties. The Shimon came in and took them from me because you owed him money. You didn't tell me about that. You owed him money. Now I lost the properties. I lost my money. Give me the money back." Besides for giving me the money that I paid for the properties, I also put a lot of work into the properties. I need the expenses and all of that improvements that I put in. So he's coming back to Reuven to collect that. He sold the field to his friend. And he put improvements in. Now Shimon shows up and takes the property. When the purchaser wants to collect from Reuven back, I lost money on this. The actual price of the property itself, he can go to other people that bought property from Ruvain and collect from that, even though it's been sold already. That's a shvach, but the improvements of the property, you have to collect from Ruvain himself. One second. All of those improvements, he should not be able to collect it all, because all of that came later. The question is, how could Shimon, the original person, collect the improvements from the property that's been sold? That improvement came later. Why is the purchaser going back to Reuven to be reimbursed for the improvements that Shimon took away? Those improvements should not have been collected by Shimon. Yeah, because anything that comes later, he doesn't have any lien on it. Gemara says, "Hamani Reb Meir." This is Reb Meir that says that Shimon was allowed to collect it because Reb Meir says that things that come later, you can sell that, so you can put a lien on property that he didn't even have. Gemara says, 1 second. If you say if you say that there's no lien on things that are acquired later, okay, so there's no lien on it. If you say that there is a lien on it, lava, the lava, the chazar, the kana mahu, lekam mishtabed, elabasim mishtabed. We have a complication over here. If there is a lien on things that you acquire later, so normally the way a lien would work is that whoever borrows the money first, he's the one that has the most power, because his debt preceded the other debts he should be able to collect. But now we're saying that property that's acquired later gets a lien on it from all the people that borrowed before, right? So the new property is coming. The lien is like sort of simultaneous with all of the people that borrowed before. If there was property, let's say Reuven's borrowing money from Shimon, okay, and then he borrows money from Levi. So when Shimon comes to collect, he has the rights to take first, because once Levi, what are you doing here? He owed me money beforehand, so he collects first. But now that the property is showing up later, so Shimon can't say, 1 second, I collect first, because the property just showed up. It wasn't here before. There was no lien on that. That lien on that property came both of them to equally. So it says, the question is like this: to who is the lien on more, the first one or the second one? This question was asked of us, and we asked the question, and they sent from there. That means from Eretz Yisrael, Rishon Kana, that it's the first one that has the lien. Rav Huna Amar Yachlaik. Rav Huna says no, it's divided in equally. Rabba says you divide it. Amar Ravina says Madura Kama. Madura Kama de Ravashi Amalan Rishon Kana. The first version of what Ravashi taught was that the first one acquires it, and Madura Basra de Ravashi Amalan Yachleiku. The second version says Yachleiku. The Hilchah say Yachleiku. The halacha is that they divide it up. There's two creditors here. They divide up the new property. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. The Shvach Karkois Ketzan. When it says that you collect after the property was confiscated and the purchaser goes back to get his money, so he collects also from the improvements. Someone sold the field to his friend, right? And he makes improvements. Shimon shows up and says, "You bought a field off Reuven. He owed me money." Confiscates it. Shugaiva, he goes back to Reuven to get his money. Shugaiva, he's collecting Gaiva. He can collect the principal price, even from fields that were sold already. Besashvach, and the improvements, minachasim b'nei chayrin, from money that Reuven has at hand. Okay, now the im isa, and if you're going to say that when there's two creditors, they have to divide it. So there's two creditors on Reuven. There's the creditor Shimon that he owed money to. Then there's the purchaser that now has coming to collect what Shimon had confiscated from him. If they're both equal, how did Shimon take all of the improvements? That was new things that came to Reuven later on. He shouldn't have been able to collect both. He should have been able to collect half, because they have to divide that. They're both coming to Reuven to collect. Shimon should have never been able to take the whole thing. He should have only been able to take half. Gemara answers, my goiva, what does it mean that he collects? That nami goiva, my goiva nami diktani chatzi eshvach. It means that he only collects half. That means that Shimon wasn't allowed to take all of the improvements. He was only allowed to take half, according to this, because half of it had to be paid to the purchaser. Okay, let's leave it over here.
What's today's Daf? Get one behind.
We're not behind.
Go
Today
ahead.
was Kufn and Zayin. Exactly. Hanukkah, wow. Yeah. Moshe's traveling. Okay.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.